Welcome back to Honey Badger 3D Print and Paint. Today we are taking a look at the Bambulabs X1. Before we get started, a word from our sponsors and roll those credits. Direct Computers is passionate about building the best PCs for their clients. No job is too big or too small, and their friendly staff are only a call away if you ever need advice. Their prices are competitive and they'll match any price you find online. All their orders will ship the next day once they're built, so that it won't even take that long to get the PC you want. Don't forget to use the code HONEYBADGER at the checkout to get free shipping on your first order, and check out the link in the video description below. Okay, first and foremost, Bambulabs did not send us this machine. The sponsorship tag that we have on this channel is for Direct Computers. Check them out in the video description. But Bambulabs did not send us this machine. This machine was donated to us by a very generous viewer, and my God. First and foremost, I want to be really clear that I am not saying that this machine is perfect. We'll have a conversation in a minute about some of the drawbacks that it has. But I want to start out by saying that this machine is, out of the box, the best FDM 3D printer I have ever used. I've used Ultimakers, I've used Rays, I've used Prussias. We've obviously had many machines on this channel, artilleries. I've got the Voron, we've got the Rat Rig we're working through, many printers. This, out of the box, is the best. We have here the Benchy that was done on our live stream. There is a change in temperature, which has unfortunately got a line in the middle of this where sort of the bottom half is shiny and the top half is matte. But this Benchy is the best and the quickest Benchy I have ever done on any machine. Let's talk about where this machine sits in the market, and we'll talk about the specs. So this one is the X1 Carbon. It was backed on Kickstarter, so it was bought at the early bird price. For that, you've got the Carbon X1, you've got the AMS, the multi-material system that Bambu have. You get the hardened nozzle, and you get four 250-gram spools of different filaments. I have basically used all of those filaments inside of a day. We have done some Voron parts because I'm doing some changes to my Voron in a vain hope that I can get it to a point where it performs at the level of this machine. I've done these in, I've done some carbon fiber pieces, I've done some ABS, I've done some multi-material parts, and we've done some stuff in PLA as well. This machine has produced some of the highest quality parts I have ever seen from an FDM 3D printer. Let me be clear. This machine is not perfect. It's not perfect. We'll go over those parts in a minute as well. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk through the specs. It is a 255 by 255 by 255 build volume. It has the hardened nozzle, it has closed loop cooling fans, an active carbon filter. Because it's enclosed, it does pretty good at all the filaments I've thrown at it so far. It also has the 1080p recording camera in here, along with some lights on the inside as well. It is slightly heavier than the regular X1 non-carbon, and that's because the sides are aluminium not plastic. So on the X1 it's plastic and glass, on the X1 Carbon it's aluminium and glass. I'll show you some print quality in a second, but let's talk through some of the things I like, some of the things I don't like. So setup from out of the box, bearing in mind we also had the AMS system to try and figure out, and we downloaded the Bambu Studio. I think setup from start to finish was sitting at around 40 minutes to get a print going. I was doing that on a live stream, so I was answering questions and doing a few other bits and pieces. You could probably have it set up in 20 minutes to half an hour. And the setup really is very simple. It is take out the screws that are holding the bed down, put the Bowden tube into the back of the AMS, put the screen on, and you're done. That's pretty much the entire setup. Everything in this machine is ultimately pretty automated. It has a LiDAR sensor, which it inspects the first layer like an advanced form of spaghetti detective. It has a spaghetti detective. Because it's the hardened nozzle, it can do carbon fiber, it can do ABS, it can do enclosed prints, it can do ASA very happily, glass fiber reinforced stuff this can do. Again, a very aesthetically pleasing machine, and what it produces is great. Now, some of the things I don't like. I have had some issues with the screen where when I finish a print, if I want to reprint the same thing, this is only if I have sent the print via Wi-Fi from my PC to this, prints the part fine, but if I want to reprint that part, I have to power cycle the machine. Otherwise, when I go into the screen to try and reprint it, it comes up that the file is corrupted. The file isn't corrupted because when I reboot the machine, it doesn't do that. On ludicrous mode and sport mode and normal mode, and frankly, even on silent mode, this is not a quiet machine. The machine is loud. Let me caveat that and say that it is going significantly faster than your average FDM machine. So if you were printing on a Prusa, you would probably be printing between 60 and 100 millimeters a second, depending on which version of Prusa you have and what kind of layer heights you're doing and everything else. This part here was printed in ABS. It was printed in ludicrous mode. It was printed at a 0.16 layer height, and it took about, I think in the end this took 6 hours. I sliced this to go on mics longer, and it was going to take 2.5 days. And this was done in 6 hours. It is also loud. If you're putting it on ludicrous mode, it isn't quiet. Let's be really clear. The parts that this is turning out are stunning. They are fantastic quality for FDM, amongst some of the best quality FDM prints I have ever seen. The price for just the X1 Carbon without the AMS is just over £1,000. It's about 1,040 odd pounds. Should you buy this, or should you buy a pre-built Prusa? And my answer is this, every single time. I am not debating that Prusa puts out really nice parts, but this is enclosed. It comes with a steel nozzle. It prints twice as fast as a Prusa does, because this is printing at normal mode. It's printing at 200 millimeters a second, and ludicrous pushes that closer to 400 millimeters a second. So 2 to 3 times faster than you could churn parts out on a Prusa. It's slightly larger than a Prusa, not by much, but it is slightly larger build volume than a Prusa has. The part cooling is fine and it does its job. I do think it would benefit. So the way they do their part cooling is there is a large radial fan that's on the wall of this panel on the right hand side. I think they would benefit if they're going to do that. I think they would benefit from having one on the other side as well, so that you've got that part cooling from both sides. The slicer feels like it is not giving me the same amount of options, or not making those options an intuitive thing to find when compared to something like Cura. Cura can give you information overload at points, and I take that on board. But for what it's doing at the moment, I'll be honest, it can be a little bit annoying to find the thing that you need to find. Multi-material. Multi-material, so to be clear, right, we've got this part here. So I will put up the time lapse of this in a second. In fact, let's do that now. Okay, so you'll notice that there are actually two of these. So I wasn't sure if this was going to print the way that it did. So this is the one that printed all in one. So the purple was already inside of the handle when it printed. So there was some overlap. And I tell you what, it has printed absolutely amazingly, and it works fantastically. I also printed the purple inner piece, this bit here, and the handle separately, thinking I could push the purple in and join them together. Can't do that. So so this one is the one that worked. The other one printed, but yeah. Anyway, so so when it comes to doing single color prints, I found that Bambulabs is pretty accurate with the time. Pretty accurate with the time. When it comes to multi-material, it is not. So the estimated time for me to print this was, and I just love doing that, it's so fun. I'm going to use it to just, this is just going to be how I make points from now on. I'll point on the blackboard, be like, you can see here, children, that this is fair. Brilliant. Anyway, so I'll put that down. So when it comes to doing the multi-material prints, it seems to struggle to take into account the amount of time that it's purging. And that's where we come into the poo bucket. As a result, what it was originally supposed to be about 1 day, 4 hours to print this and the other part actually ended up taking 1 day and 20. So it was close to 45% out on timing, which isn't ideal. It does make, if you're using this for workflow, like you do actually need to know how long prints are going to take. So not being able to know that was quite annoying. And this is all of the wastage that came out, plus this as the purge block. So between this here and this here, that's a lot of filament to waste. I mean, this is a lot of purge. Now, again, you can tune these. So you don't have to have a purge block, and you can tune the amount that it purges in between each time so that it can, you know, do a better job, I guess, of trying to transition those colors. As it is, my color transitions here are absolutely perfect. If I had one thing that I was criticizing this about, and I mean, I'll show you the quality of this in a second because the quality is absolutely mind-blowing. So you can sort of quite visibly, and even on these sections, you can quite visibly see the Z seam, or the Z seam, depending on where you're from. depends on what you're looking for in your models, depends on how much of an issue that is. You can hide the Z-seam, do a few other bits and pieces, but I was using pretty much stock settings to do these. Before we move on, let's show you some of the print quality and some of the prints that I've done here. Okay, let's just start with one of my favourite prints. So this is the retractable sword. So you can see, if I keep turning this round, right here, see if we can get that to focus, right here is where you can just see the Z-seam going down the side, but this has printed in here, and you can see absolutely no colour bleed. A very nice first layer, and have a look at that handle, really nice. If you look at the top here, you can see that this has got that sort of bump concaveness on it, and if we can get that to focus, there we go, you can see some of the layer lines on that. That's just where it's struggling with some of those top surfaces. These are also a couple of the Bambu coins. They were printed multi-material style, so they're obviously printed in the Bambu orange and the Bambu white, and they are incredibly clean, and they even have got a nice shine on the bottom where they printed so lovely. This is a bit more of an organic shape model, so this is the top of Gandalf's staff, and as you can see, this was actually printed, despite it looking the same as that, this is actually PLA, and this has printed really, really nicely. Just a generic Sunlu PLA. We come over to ABS. So these are some of the Voron parts. This one is the stealth burner. So you can see here, these are the bottom layers. These are the sides. See if we can get some of that. And the top layers as well. Really, really clean. Same with these parts as well. These are ABS. Really beautifully done, lovely parts. We've got some parts here that had supports on them. So I will say that overhangs, see if we can get that, is one area where this is not blowing me away with the quality. So I don't know if we'll be able to get in there, but let's see. You can see a little bit of roughness on those layers there. Obviously this is ABS, so part cooling was turned off, but honestly, still absolutely lovely parts. These are the carbon fibre that came with the printer. So again, very nice first layers. Had all supports going through here, so a little bit rough where I scratched it up with some pliers, but for a polycarbonate, it has come out really very, very nicely. A very nice finish. Those sides, carbon fibre always has a really nice surface finish. Same with these parts as well. There we go, look at that. So beautiful shine on these. That nice carbon fibre finish, where they always come out really smooth, these edges. They almost look like they've been powder cut, like they've been sort of like, you know, that they've come out of like a metal machine or something. Like really, really nice quality, really nice prints. No elephant's foot, so we can see on the, again, get that to focus. There we go, no elephant's foot or anything. So a really nice first layer that went down. This here is the benchy that we did on the live stream. So this was a 14-minute benchy, and you can just see that difference between the quality, or sorry, the difference in finish. So these first few layers here are very shiny, and these layers here are quite matte. But one of the best benches that I have had off of a machine. This was done in sport mode, so one before ludicrous. Again, a 14-minute benchy is very quick, and it did an absolutely beautiful job of doing that as well. So as you can see, those prints are absolutely they're amongst some of the best prints, especially in ABS, that I've ever had. But even the PLA stuff is absolutely, they are flawless prints. They are really top notch. One thing I will criticize a little bit. So here we have the reusable spools. So I now have 4 reusable spools because I had the carbon fiber, the support material, and 2 PLAs. I was given 250 grams of each. And let me tell you, 250 grams in a machine going this quickly does not go far. It feels a little stingy, to the point as to which I would quite happily have paid an extra 50 quid more if it meant that I got 4 full spools of filament. Now, the reason why these come apart is because when you buy Bambulabs filament, which has the RFID stickers in it, these spools, they do not come spooled. They come on cardboard drums that will slot onto these. So if you do have one of these as a Kickstarter and you plan to continue to use Bambulabs filament, then make sure you keep these, because they come apart and then they're reusable for the next ones that you get. So try to make sure you don't throw these away. Otherwise, you have to buy new ones of these. I would imagine that these are printable, but I don't know. So they're actually quite nice spool holders. They sit quite nicely. Spool holder is something I want to come onto as well with the ABS. So in here at the moment, we've got Overture PLA which is Amazon's own brand. We've got some Sunlu, and we've got some generic, I think it's eSun, but I've got some fairly generic ABS in there. All of my spools fit. The Overture filament comes on a cardboard spool. That fits. Obviously, you cannot put in more than a 1 kilo spool, because anything bigger than that and the lid won't close and it won't fit, blah, de, blah, de, blah. You can, if you wish to, there is a small metal spool holder that goes on the back. So if you're not using the AMS system, or you haven't bought the AMS system, your filament goes on the back. That does make it a little difficult to change. Like you're turning it round and it's not light. We also, so one of the things we printed with the PLA that this came with was a poo bucket. So this goes behind the printer, and all of the filament that comes out of the poop chute goes into this, and it just makes it a little easier to reach round, take the bucket out and dump out the bucket than it does having to play about with the thing. So I quite like that. Again, the multi-material print, as I've already demonstrated, came out really nice. No colour bleed whatsoever. Absolutely really high quality print. One thing I have noticed with the Bambulabs is it does struggle with gradient top layers. So if you've got a dome, I'm seeing quite a lot of layer stepping on mine. Now, admittedly, I am printing at 0.16 at the moment, so I could lower that layer height and I could put on adaptive layers and I could probably smooth that out a little bit. But that's an issue that I'm having. And I am having a little bit of a back and forth at the moment with supports. So the supports that I'm using, you know, sometimes they're coming out really, really nice. Other times, not so much. So I am playing about with support settings quite a lot. I can get traditional supports to work quite well, normal upright supports. But to be honest with you, I am kind of struggling to get the tree supports working. Now, we love tree supports here. I think tree supports have cut down my filament usage by half to a third, because we have quite complex geometries, and as a result, because we're doing organic models, and as a result, it's quite nice actually to use tree supports because they use so much less filament. But I am struggling with Bambulabs to get really high quality interface layers, as I have done in Cura. So I've tuned Cura. My Cura, I feel, is working pretty well for what it is. It's not really working the way that I wanted it to for that. But again, by the by, everything that I am printing, I mean, the ABS that's going on this, coming out absolutely glorious. And again, to be clear, this is all just generic. This isn't expensive PLA. I mean, so this was the Bambulabs PLA, right? So this was the white PLA that it came with. It printed beautifully. The bottom layers on this, super smooth. The walls, there are no extrusion lines or anything. That brings us back to the features of this machine. So every time it starts up, it goes through and it will do a leveling procedure. It will then do an extrusion flow test. It then does a little bit of calibration where it does its vibration test. And then it does a little doodle in the front corner that it, again, is calibrating the flow rate. Once it's done its first layer, it passes the LiDAR over that first layer to try and judge whether or not the first layer's gone down properly. And that whole startup procedure can take 5 to 8 minutes, probably, I would say. 5 to 8 minutes. We are using 3D lac on the bed. We are not using that for adhesion. The adhesion on the bed is fine. We're using this as a release agent. So you spray this on and it means that you can pop things off of the bed just that little bit easier without having to scratch it or anything else. There's two sides to the build plate. There's a cool plate and a high temperature one. The high temperature one really is for the carbon fiber that the machine comes with, but you can also use it for ABS and things like that. And then we have the cool plate on for our PLA and all of that. First and foremost, would I buy one? As I say, this machine was sent to us by a very generous subscriber. And would I buy one? Absolutely. Absolutely I would. I do wish it was slightly larger. So for us, when we're doing our models, so if we take Osrio as a prime example, he's a big model. We do our models quite large, and frankly, most of him would not have been able to have gone on this Bambu. And the problem with that is there's never been a point where I've been like, hey, I'd like a worse version of this, or I'd like to really be able to tell the difference between the print quality of the things that I put on my machines. That's not what I want. That's not, you know, and it makes it very difficult when it comes to printing certain things. I would say that probably 50% of Osrio would have probably fitted on this, and it would have improved some of the print quality and it would have come out really nicely. I would like to see Bambu making a slightly larger version. So I envision that this will not be their only printer they ever make. They've done exceedingly well. I think they will probably end up going for a 350 by 350 cube next. 255 to 300 doesn't really feel like enough of a jump. 320 feels like a bit of an odd size. 350 feels like the space that would be like, you know, if you want sort of like an Ender thing, then you buy this, and if you want something sort of bigger, more around Voron territory, then perhaps the 350 would be an excellent contender. I hope they find a way to bring that volume down, because as I said, it's not quiet. But I gotta tell you guys, if I'm giving this thing a score, even with a couple of software bugs, even with having to get used to Bambulabs, and with the build volume and the noise and things like that, I'm giving this machine a 9.5. The noise is just a little bit... It's the reason why I don't want to use ludicrous mode, which means it does sort of slow down my workflow a little bit. But I'll tell you now, if you had £1,000 in your pocket and you weren't bothered about multi-material, I don't think there is a better machine you could buy for your money than this. It does not require you to be an expert and build your own DIY kit. It puts the fun back into 3D printing. You probably won't experience as many failures. I have had a couple of failures. I want to be clear, this machine isn't the golden child, right? This isn't breaking the mold and, you know, destroying the competition, and Creality are all just running around with their heads on fire, freaking out. Like, that's not what's happening. But what it does do is it shows that a company can come into this space. This is Bambu's first machine. It's their first stab at this. They showed exactly how you should run a Kickstarter campaign. They showed exactly, in my eyes, how you should engage with the community. They showed exactly how you should manage your logistics and shipping things out. Most people aren't going to be happy about the fact that someone received their machine before the other person. But there's a reality that like 7,000 people bought these machines, so someone's going to get it first and someone's going to get it last. And the first person's going to be real smug and the last person's going to be really seething. But that's just the reality, right? That's just how shipping works. Should you buy one? Yeah. Normally there's some sort of caveat, right? The only people I think who shouldn't buy one of these, genuinely, is if you live in a flat and you have your printer on something that means the vibration from your printer is going to be translated directly to the floor. Because I'm not going to lie, downstairs probably are going to hear the fact that your printer is on. If you run it in silent mode, you'll probably be fine. But you need to live with the fact that you're not going to get the sort of the super fast speeds that everyone else is getting. You're probably getting, and again, this is such a ridiculous statement to make, but you're probably going to get between 150 and 200 millimeters a second, which is easily twice to 3 times the speed of most Cartesians, like most bed slingers. But it doesn't change the fact that if you want to be printing in ludicrous mode and you live in a flat, your neighbours aren't going to thank you about getting one of these. But this is a one-stop shop deal, right? This is you can print ABS out of the box, PLA out of the box, carbon fibre nylon, glass fibre reinforced, PC. You know, you can print all of those out of the box, and it's a relatively simple thing to just select them in Bambu Slicer, and most of the settings automatically populate for you. I haven't deviated from a large number of those generic settings. Bambu have done a decent job inside of Bambu Studios at giving you a pretty solid starter for 10 profile. So should you buy one? Yeah. Yeah, you really should. This is, and I said it at the top of the video, this is the best 3D printer I have used out of the box. Now, can you get print quality like this on an Ender 3? No, but you can get good quality on an Ender 3. Do you need to print ABS and nylon? Maybe not. In which case, you could even look at the X1, which is slightly cheaper. Not a lot, but it is slightly cheaper. Do you need to spend, do you have £1,000 to spend on a machine? If the answer is yes, and your question is, should I buy this or should I buy a Prusa, you should buy this. You should buy this. This is better. And there's going to be some Prusa fanboys who are super hurt by that. And they'll try and say that they've got something, I don't know what, that's better than this is. You haven't. This is a power play by Bambu. The price point, I believe, is very deliberate. They have priced this specifically to compete with Prusa. And in my eyes, this machine beats a Prusa in near enough every area. I am not saying this machine is perfect. No machine is perfect. But what it has done for me is it has raised the bar of where 3D printers can be and will be. So take from that what you want. I highly recommend you go and check them out. I'll put a link in the video description to the Bambulabs website. To be clear, this is not an affiliate link. We do not get paid if you go and buy one. I'll also put a link in the video description to Direct Computers, the channel sponsor. That's also not an affiliate link, and we also don't get paid for that. But they have been very generous and they have sorted us out with a lot of excellent kit on the channel. It would be fantastic if you were able to go and support those guys. They're a small UK-based company and they really deserve a lot of community support. So thank you very much, guys and dolls, for joining us. We'll catch you on the next video. Happy printing.